Welcome back, and you get to BS with Ben. But today what we are going to cover is foam clay and the best way to work with it. Stay tuned. Welcome back to BS with Ben, where you get to learn how to BS like an expert. Foam clay seems to be the new thing that's going around, and it's really cool. I've played with it and I've done a couple of projects with it. But there's a couple of things that people need to know. One is when it dries, it's breakable, but there's a way around that. This is foam clay. I've just got a sample package. I've used up all the other stuff that you can get. You can buy it at most Cosplay sources and stuff, and it is better than the Crayola stuff. Hands down, way better than the Crayola stuff. But there's a few things that you need to be aware of. Now, this is the same as this stuff right here. And if you've let it dry for 48 hours, that's great. But as soon as you go past that 48 and you go into, like, say, a week, this is 2 weeks old, you get something that breaks really easily. And that's not what you want. There are a couple of things that you can do. One is that I've taken the exact same piece. This was made just moments after that one. But you'll notice that this is just as old, but I can flex it back and forth and there's no problems. The big difference here is that after 48 hours, or I think it was 72 hours, I coated it in Flex Bond. And what that does is it keeps enough of the moisture that is required to keep it squishy inside, and it works out fine. The biggest thing I'd recommend 90% of you guys do is if you use foam clay, don't just put it on and then let the Cosplay sit in your closet somewhere, because something like that is going to happen and it's not going to be any good. And you're probably wondering, why do I have all these colors and all this other stuff here? This is where it gets kind of interesting. This stuff here, this is awesome. In Canada, you can go to the dollar store and you can buy the Montoy Clay Argyle Plastilina. Now, I've looked around to see if I could find it in the US somewhere, but it's been fairly difficult. Now, I bet you're wondering, is this Montoy stuff really the same? Well, here's how it stretches. You go a quick tug. You'll notice that it breaks like a non-Newtonian fluid, so it's a lot like silly putty in that way. Right? And that is that stuff right there. Here is the commercial stuff that you normally buy. Weighs the same, stretches the same. This one dries out maybe a little more brittle, but in the end, if you just coat it, you're fine. So where do you get this magical Montoy clay? In Canada? Well, you go to Dollarama. Dollarama's got racks of it in the toy section. And here's the real kicker. You get, how many, what do we got here? I forget how much is in these things. Here we go, I can look at this. So you get 1 ounce each. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ounces of the clay for $3. Can't beat that. So you might want to go to Dollarama and clear out the shelves of this. And if you need to store this for an extended period of time, throw it in the freezer. Working with it is exactly the same as this stuff. And if you let it dry, it does the exact same thing. You'll notice it's a little more brittle than this, but not by much. So getting something that's brittle in the end is obviously not what you're going to go for. See, this is some more of that stuff. Again, it becomes very brittle after a certain period of time. You can solve it, again, by taking the Flex Bond, just like this stuff, and coating it. And once you've coated it, again, it retains its flexibility. What's all this other stuff? Well, this here is some of the Montoy stuff. And you notice that obviously it cracks. This here, and this is for tomorrow's episode. And I hope that you subscribe for tomorrow's episode. And here's why. See how it flexes? No problems. And was this post-coated? No, it was not. Was this post-coated? No, it was not. And it works fine. Same with this guy here that's been tinted. Now these guys are a little tougher. They have a fair amount of rigidity to them, but they're not breaking. Here's a long tube, just like this was made at the same time as this guy here, of my version of the stuff. So what I've come up with is a recipe. I think I'm going to call it Cosplay. that makes a very similar material. Okay, it's not as light. It's actually, I'd say it's twice the weight of this, but this stuff weighs like it's paperweight. It's nothing. It weighs hardly anything. So adding a little bit of weight isn't a big deal, but then you get this durability. These are all sort of different recipes that I've tried. This is pretty close to where I'm going to leave off. This is the last stuff that I made, and again, it's super flexible. What we're going to cover tomorrow is how to make your own foam cosplay clay. I'm going to call it Cosplay. Stay tuned. Hit subscribe. Please share this around if it's been of any use to you. And Bill Doran from Punish Props. Yesterday you released a video on foam clay, which is awesome. But you did point out that some of the pieces that you made got fairly brittle. Remember how I was using Flex Bond to make things really pliable and keep it that way? That's your answer to that one problem. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.